Han Li's high-risk teleport escape under Yaksha monarch assault with uncertain survival, possible spatial death, and awakening in a hostile unknown realm. I really love making these videos, but I need your support to keep going. Please like, comment, or hype video so I don't have to give up on this dream. The woman had already flown into the center of the massive formation. The buzzing emanating from it surged several-fold, and violent spatial fluctuations erupted around it. The space beneath the entire formation began to twist and distort, clearly indicating that a teleportation process had been initiated. At the moment the demented minions charged out of the sword formation, it reverted into 72 golden swords and flashed back into Han Li's body. However, the warping of space reduced his flight speed by half. A faint change appeared in Han Li's expression. Before he could activate his thunderstorm wings, the attacks from the Yaksha monarchs had already arrived. A fist strike launched from afar manifested as a massive green projection amid a thunderous boom. It struck directly beneath the formation, placing Han Li squarely in its path. Han Li understood that if he did not deal with this attack, first escape would be impossible. He inhaled deeply and raised both hands. A dozen golden and silver beads shot out at once. Only then did he spread his thunderstorm wings and vanish from his position. In the next instant, he appeared beneath the center of the formation and entered it without hesitation. At that moment, a vast expanse of crimson light swept through the air and struck one corner of the formation with great force. Simultaneously, the golden and silver beads collided with the fist projection, detonating together. Crimson light flickered violently, causing the entire formation to tremble and ripple. At the same time, an earth-shaking explosion erupted as a massive golden and silver lightning cloud expanded, covering a radius of over 1,000 kilometers. Fierce winds surged outward, swallowing everything in an instant. Spatial fluctuations appeared along the edges of the lightning cloud, and the two Yaksha monarchs re-emerged. The power of the lightning beads rivaled the full-force attacks of more than a dozen spatial tempering cultivators. Even they did not dare to charge recklessly into the cloud. As a result, they abandoned their plan to teleport in and forcibly drag Han Li and the woman out. During the brief time bought by the lightning cloud, brilliant light erupted from the formation. After several erratic flashes, it collapsed and vanished. The two Yaksha monarchs joined forces to disperse the lightning cloud, then appeared at the center of where the formation had been. There only a cracked white formation plate floated in mid-air, completely devoid of spiritual chi. One of the Yaksha monarchs grabbed the plate, examined it with a dark expression, and tossed it to the other. There's a trace of true spirit chi here. It seems we underestimated those two human cultivators. Who would have thought they possessed such a long-distance teleportation treasure? The second Yaksha monarch said with a sigh, I did not expect this either. Fortunately, my final strike disrupted their formation. Whether they can teleport safely is uncertain. They may fall into a spatial rift and vanish from this realm, indestructible monarch replied coldly. Chakravarti frowned slightly and nodded. We can only hope so. Our priority now is to locate the demented minions. I do not know where they were sent, and recovering them may be difficult. It's not a major issue. Those minions possess intelligence. Unless they were sent to another continent, they will find their way back. We should finalize the conditions for the united army we discussed earlier. Otherwise, although the escape of Han Li and the woman surprised them, the two Yaksha monarchs quickly turned their attention to more pressing matters. Meanwhile, the Yaksha army, located countless kilometers away, continued advancing toward Deep Heaven City. Han Li experienced a splitting headache and intense dizziness. For his current body to react this way, the teleportation must have covered an extremely long distance. After keeping his eyes closed for a long time, he finally opened them and surveyed his surroundings. He was standing atop a pile of rocks of varying sizes. All were rounded and grayish-white. Thick grey mist surrounded him, severely limiting visibility. A constant ringing echoed in his head, and he found himself unable to release his spiritual sense. This suggested either a restriction in the area or that he had yet to recover from the teleportation. Han Li frowned and slowly moved his neck. A faint blue light flickered within his eyes. Suddenly, his expression shifted. He formed a hand seal and rose into the air as a streak of azure light before diving into the mist. About 5 minutes later, he appeared beside a small creek several dozen feet wide, standing with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked down at the clear water and narrowed his eyes slightly. With a grasping motion, he drew a small ball of water into his hand. After inspecting it briefly and confirming it was safe, he drank it. The water was pure and sweet. Hanli nodded slightly in satisfaction. Just as he prepared to take more, his expression changed. He raised an eyebrow and suddenly clenched his fist, striking behind him. A surge of immense force erupted, colliding with something with a loud boom. The mist churned violently. The sound of stumbling and muffled groans followed. Hanli's figure blurred. He turned around like a phantom and swept his sleeve. A powerful gust dispersed the mist across several hundred feet, revealing a creature about 10 feet tall. Even with Han Li's extensive experience, he paused at the sight. The creature had a peculiar appearance: small eyes, a long snout, the head of a pig, and the body of a human. A blue turtle shell was tightly affixed to its upper body. It lay flat on its back, clearly knocked down by Han Li's strike, grunting as it struggled to rise. However, due to its bulky shell and unusually short limbs, it could not turn over and remained stuck like an overturned turtle. Pig Tortoise Demon. The name surfaced in Han Li's mind, and he let out a faint chuckle. Its aura was weak, only comparable to a chi condensation cultivator. Han Li felt relieved but also puzzled. Despite its weakness, it had endured his strike. He looked at the turtle shell and noticed a fist imprint about an inch deep. A trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. He extended his hand. Spiritual light flashed and a large azure hand formed in the air. It reached down and lifted the pig demon by the shell. Before Han Li could examine it further, the creature suddenly withdrew its body with surprising agility and slipped out of the shell, revealing a brown boar. It immediately fled into the mist. In an instant, only the empty shell remained in the grasp of the azure hand. Han Li's lips twitched slightly. The earlier clumsiness had been an act to lower his guard. The creature did not appear intelligent at first glance, yet it was cunning and likely possessed considerable awareness. Han Li had no interest in pursuing a chi condensation beast. Instead, he inspected the shell more closely, surprise deepening in his expression. This is merely the shell of a turtle that has lived for several hundred years, yet it withstood my strike. What kind of spirit turtle possesses such durability? He murmured. After a brief pause, he stored the shell in his storage bracelet. He did not venture further. Instead, he sat cross-legged beside the creek and began to meditate. The water flowed quietly. The surrounding mist gradually thinned. After some time, as the mist nearly dissipated, a group of beasts resembling both deer and horses gathered at the creek. Some drank water while several young calves only about a foot long played nearby. With Han Li fully concealing his aura and remaining motionless, the beasts failed to notice him. One calf even bumped into him directly. The calf paused, sensing something unusual. It turned and examined Han Li with its bright blue eyes. It circled him a few times before cautiously leaning closer. After sniffing his face, it extended its small tongue and licked him tentatively. Without warning, Han Li opened his eyes. The calf reacted instantly and attempted to flee. At that moment, a flash of green light appeared. A fragrant pill shot from Han Li's sleeve and entered the calf's mouth precisely. At the same time, his calm voice sounded in its ears. "Perhaps our meeting is not without reason. I will give you this spirit pill. Whether you gain intelligence depends on your own fortune." Though his tone was gentle, the calf was startled and let out a frightened cry. The surrounding beasts immediately became alert. They rushed forward, shielding the calves and lowering their horns toward Han Li in caution. Han Li remained seated, unmoving. After giving the calf one final calm glance, he closed his eyes again, no longer paying attention to the group. The beasts could sense that Han Li harbored no hostility, yet they still withdrew cautiously, retreating into the distance while keeping their young close. Before long, they vanished completely from sight. Han Lai remained seated by the creek for some time. Only after the mist had fully dispersed did he rise slowly into the air. By then, both his magic power and spiritual sense had fully recovered. However, when he tested it, he found that his spiritual sense could extend to less than 10 kilometers. The restriction was clearly severe. Because of this, he chose to ascend further into the sky and rely on his bright sight spirit, eyes to observe the surroundings instead of depending on his spiritual sense. In this way, he could survey a much wider area. After rising to an altitude exceeding 10,000 feet, a faint blue light flickered within his eyes as he carefully scanned the landscape. Endless stretches of grey-white rock extended to the east and west as far as he could see. To the south, about 15 kilometers away, there was a patch of green, suggesting the presence of mountain ranges. To the north, a dense concentration of water attribute spiritual qi spread outward, indicating a vast body of water, likely a river or an ocean. After a brief pause, Han Li chose the northern direction and flew forward as a streak of azure light. With his current speed, the distance was crossed in a short time. His eyes brightened slightly when a boundless ocean came into view. However, the seawater was unusual. It was crimson in color. Along the shoreline, nearly 1,000 massive turtles of varying sizes rested lazily. The largest measured 30 to 40 feet, while the smallest were only about half a foot long. All of them were partially buried in the sand, appearing completely at ease. Above the ocean, a flock of strange crimson birds circled continuously. Their long, sharp beaks and talons flashed as they occasionally dived into the sea, seized large fish, and flung them into the air. The fish would then be torn apart and devoured instantly by the birds overhead. Han Li observed this scene without expression. After a moment, a thought arose in his mind, and he suddenly lifted his gaze toward the sky. 7 blazing suns still hung above, but they appeared slightly smaller and somewhat blurred. This suggested that he had been transported extremely far from the 3 human regions. Otherwise, such a noticeable change in the suns would not occur. Fortunately, he had already suspected this based on the discomfort he experienced during the teleportation. As such, he remained calm and turned his attention back to the shoreline. In addition to the living turtles, the beach was scattered with numerous empty turtle shells, several thousand in total. Han Li narrowed his eyes slightly and flipped his hand, summoning the azure turtle shell he had taken from the pig demon. Comparing it with the shells below, a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. At first glance, the shells on the beach looked very similar to the one in his hand, and many were even larger. However, upon closer inspection, the difference was clear. The shell in his possession, though not large, had faint silver lines running across its surface. In contrast, the shells below only had plain white patterns and appeared completely ordinary. Tilting his head slightly, Han Li considered this for a moment before making a grasping motion. One of the shells on the ground immediately flew up toward him. He struck it casually. With a loud explosion, the shell shattered into powder. The turtles below stirred slightly. Many extended their heads to look upward, but they did not seem alarmed. Most quickly withdrew back into their shells and continued resting. This is no ordinary turtle shell. Still, it most likely originated from this place, Han Li said quietly. A flash of azure light surrounded him as he slowly descended. At the same time, he forcefully extended his spiritual sense, covering several kilometers and searching carefully. After some time, his eyes opened abruptly. He shot forward as a streak of azure light, traveling several kilometers along the shoreline before returning. Behind him floated 3 additional giant turtle shells. One measured 40 to 50 feet, another around 10 feet, and the smallest only a few feet in size. All 3 shells bore silver lines, though the intensity differed. The smallest shell had lines of pure silver that shimmered faintly. The 10-foot shell had lines similar to the one Han Li already possessed. As for the largest, its lines were only faintly silver. These shells had been buried deep within the sand. Without his spiritual sense penetrating beneath the surface, he would not have discovered them. Han Li paused in mid-air and waved his hand. The 3 shells aligned neatly before him. He flicked his fingers, releasing several streaks of azure sword chi. The attack struck the shells, leaving marks of varying depth. The largest shell was pierced completely. The smallest showed only a shallow indentation of about half an inch. The medium shell had a penetration of roughly 3 to 4 inches. Hanli nodded slightly. With a sweep of his sleeve, a burst of azure light enveloped the shells. They rotated briefly before shrinking rapidly and flying into his hand. A flash of spiritual light followed, and all three were stored within his storage bracelet. At that moment, sharp cries suddenly rang out from above the ocean. Hanli immediately looked up, and his expression shifted slightly. On the ocean's surface, a massive demonic creature had appeared. It was nearly 100 feet long, with the upper body of a dark-skinned man, holding bone tridents in both hands. Its face was sinister, while its lower body resembled that of a giant octopus. Thick tentacles rose and fell from the water intermittently. The creature opened its mouth, releasing bursts of inky black light that swept through the flock of crimson birds. Hundreds were caught and drawn into its mouth as if they were nothing more than food. The birds struggled within the black light, but were powerless to escape. Most were devoured in an instant. Strangely, the turtles on the shore remained completely calm, continuing to rest without reaction. The creature also showed no intention of attacking them. Hanli observed this with a slight furrow of his brow. Judging by its aura, the creature was comparable to an 8th-grade demon beast. He felt no fear, only curiosity. In the spirit realm, the distinction between demon beasts and ancient beasts was not always clear. Generally, ancient beasts referred to native creatures of the realm, while demon beasts were those that had ascended from lower realms or were their descendants. Ancient beasts rarely possessed high intelligence, but each was born with powerful innate abilities. Demon beasts, on the other hand, usually developed intelligence, though their abilities were often weaker by comparison. There was no strict boundary between the two. Some ancient beasts gained intelligence and joined the demon race, while others were captured and domesticated by cultivators. Thus Hanli was not particularly surprised by the creature before him. He simply hovered in silence, observing. Before long, the flock of birds had been completely devoured. The creature struck the ocean's surface with its tentacles in apparent satisfaction. Then, as it turned, it suddenly noticed Hanli. Hanli had concealed his aura the entire time, so the creature had not detected him earlier. What happened next surprised him. The moment the creature saw him, its face showed clear shock and fear. It let out a low roar, transformed into a streak of black chi, and fled directly into the ocean. Immediately after, dense black mist surged upward from the seabed, spreading across several kilometers and turning the water completely opaque. Hanli's expression remained unchanged. Blue light flickered in his eyes, and his gaze pierced through the murky water. The creature had already descended deep into the ocean and was fleeing at full speed. Hanli gave a cold snort and was about to activate his thunderstorm wings to pursue when a deep, prolonged roar echoed from the depths. It resembled distant thunder, low and oppressive. At the same time, a powerful surge of demonic ki erupted nearly 10 kilometers away beneath the ocean. Its strength was comparable to that of a deity transformation cultivator. Hanli paused slightly. He looked toward the source of the raw hesitation appearing in his expression. Soon after, the powerful demonic aura joined with the fleeing creature, and the two disappeared deeper into the ocean. Hanli shook his head, and the thunderstorm wings on his back vanished. He did not fear deity transformation demon beasts, but he had no intention of provoking conflict immediately after arriving in an unfamiliar place. After watching the ocean for a moment longer, he turned and flew south. Not long after, a streak of azure light appeared above a vast stretch of lush mountain ranges. The light faded, revealing Hanli once more. From a distance, Hanli observed that the mountain range was composed of countless towering and precipitous peaks, densely packed together. Even before entering, he could already sense a fierce and oppressive aura emanating from within, which gave him slight pause. However, the spiritual chi inside the range was clearly far richer than outside. This alone was sufficient reason for him to proceed without further hesitation. To avoid drawing attention, Han Li deliberately reduced his speed and flew at a low altitude. As he passed over one mountain after another, his gaze remained vigilant, and his spiritual sense extended several kilometers outward at all times. After traveling more than 500 kilometers into the mountains, a trace of surprise and satisfaction appeared on his face. He discovered that the region was filled with spirit herbs and spirit trees. Although most were low-grade and located in steep, dangerous areas, their sheer abundance was still encouraging. After all, he was only passing through at speed. If he were to stop and conduct a careful search, the gains would certainly be worthwhile. It was very likely that high-grade spirit medicines could also be found within this range. In addition, the number of beast packs here exceeded his expectations. At one point, he even witnessed a fierce battle between two such packs. As he flew over a relatively flat pass between two massive mountains, loud ape cries and deep beastly roars suddenly echoed through the air. Soon after, a group of giant apes with white fur, each over 20 feet tall, charged out from one mountain. At their head was a golden-furred ape radiating a faint shimmer. They wielded crude weapons such as wooden staves and stone clubs as they advanced toward the neighboring mountain. From the opposite side, a pack of beasts with the heads of oxen and the bodies of lions emerged. Their leader was a massive specimen, nearly twice the size of the others. The two groups collided, and a brutal battle broke out at once. The giant apes possessed powerful jumping ability and immense strength, while their opponents relied on sharp fangs, claws, and resilient bodies. The two sides were evenly matched. What drew Han Li's attention was that both leaders displayed a degree of intelligence, allowing them to command their respective packs effectively. Judging by their auras, they were likely third or fourth grade demon beasts. The golden ape held a slight advantage in agility, but its opponent was no less formidable. After fighting for over an hour, both sides showed signs of exhaustion. Eventually, the leaders each let out a long howl, and the two groups withdrew back to their respective mountains. The battlefield was left littered with corpses, which soon attracted a flock of grotesque, twin-headed scavenger birds that descended to feast. High in the sky, Han Li watched the entire scene with quiet interest. The apes' coordinated tactics left a subtle impression on him. As he continued deeper into the mountains, he encountered several other unusual beasts, in areas where the spiritual qi was especially dense. He even sensed the presence of 6th or 7th grade demon beasts. However, none of them posed a threat to him, and he paid them little attention as he pressed onward. This mountain range was far larger than he had anticipated. After flying continuously for 2 months, he still had not reached the other side, which surprised him. Just as he began to consider turning back, he suddenly saw a vast expanse of black mist ahead, stretching endlessly and covering countless peaks. Han Li stopped at the edge of the mist and activated his spirit eyes, examining the interior with a cautious expression. Within the mist, there was no sign of life, no grass, no vegetation. Even the rocks and soil appeared dry and cracked. Faced with such an abnormal phenomenon, he did not act rashly. Instead, he reached out and made a grasping motion toward a small tree below. The tree was uprooted and pulled into his hand. Golden light erupted from his body as he hurled it forward with force. The tree shot through the air like an arrow heading straight toward the black mist several kilometers away. Han Li's eyes shone with a faint blue light as he watched closely. The moment the tree entered the mist, it withered instantly and turned to dust. His expression darkened slightly. After surveying the surroundings and pausing briefly to think, Han Li turned and flew along the edge of the mist, intending to find a way around it. Half a day later, he arrived near a small mountain at the boundary of the black mist. His expression grew more serious as he examined its surface. The mountain stood only a few thousand feet tall, but the side facing him was unnaturally smooth, as if it had been flattened by an immense force. On this surface were 3 enormous crimson characters, each several dozen feet tall. During his time in Deep Heaven City, Han Li had studied many ancient texts from the human and demon races, as well as scripts from nearby foreign races. Yet he had never seen these characters before. They were most likely from an unknown race. Although he could not read them, the strokes were sharp and carried a strong, baleful aura. A cultivator with weaker cultivation would likely be forced to retreat upon seeing them. Of course, this level of pressure had no effect on Han Li. Upon closer inspection, he noticed signs of erosion on the mountain, and parts of the characters had become blurred over time. After silently considering the situation, he continued along the edge of the mist. Several days later, he finally exited the mountain range. However, before he could feel relieved, the sight before him caused him to pause. Another coastline appeared ahead, where crimson seawater crashed continuously against the rocks. Han Li stroked his chin and hovered in mid-air, observing the sea in silence. After a long while, he suddenly turned and flew back once again, following the edge of the black mist, but this time in the opposite direction. After more than 10 days of travel, he arrived at another coastal cliff. At this point, he could confirm that he was standing on a massive island, larger than any he had ever seen. The island appeared to be roughly rectangular. One side bordered the sea where he stood, while the opposite side was entirely covered by the black mist. He had originally intended to circle around the mist to explore further, but even after a month of travel, there was no sign of its end. Eventually, he had no choice but to abandon the attempt. Whether this was truly an island or not was unclear. Its size alone was comparable to a small continent. However, this distinction did not concern him. Aside from the strange black mist, there seemed to be no powerful beings on the island. The spiritual qi was abundant, making it an ideal place for cultivation. What puzzled him, however, was that the surrounding sea contained deity transformation stage demon beasts. Yet none had claimed the island. Even the octopus demon he had encountered earlier, an 8th grade metamorphosis beast, had fled in fear upon seeing him. This inconsistency left him uncertain. He considered the matter for a long time but found no clear answer. To ensure his safety, he decided to thoroughly survey the surrounding waters for any potential threats. Over the next month, he carefully explored nearly 10,000 kilometers of ocean around half the island. In the end, he found nothing of note, only a few barren, unremarkable islands. There were some powerful demon beasts in the sea, but even the strongest among them were no more formidable than the octopus demon. Most lacked intelligence, and none posed a real concern. Satisfied, Han Li returned to the mountain range, preparing to cultivate in seclusion. He selected a mountain with especially dense spiritual qi and carved out a large cave abode. After setting numerous restrictions, he moved in. The cave was located near the edge of the mountains, more than 10 days' flight from the black mist. Even if the mist proved dangerous, it would not reach him, and he would have sufficient time to respond. He planted all the spirit medicines he carried into the garden of the cave before entering his secret chamber. His storage bracelet slipped from his wrist and hovered in the air. With a flash of azure light, 9 green-eyed true-toed beast corpses appeared before him. 2 were large, while the remaining 7 were smaller, nearly filling the entire chamber. Each corpse was covered in talismans of different colors, preventing decay and suppressing the effects of their spirit blood. Han Li took a deep breath, then retrieved a pristine white jade bottle from the bracelet. With a gesture of his other hand, one of the smaller corpses rose into the air. He flicked his finger, and a strand of sword qi pierced a small hole into its body. Soon after, a thick, shimmering liquid began to flow out silvery white in color. White light flashed, and the jade vial appeared beneath the holy being. The silver liquid immediately dripped into the opening of the vial, forming a thin silver stream. A peculiar scene followed. As the silver liquid flowed into the vial, the frog's body began to shrink and wither. The amount of silver liquid extracted from the carcass was not large, and it was depleted in a short time. However, the body itself had shrunk to nearly half its original size. Han Li then opened his mouth and released a silver fireball, which struck the carcass. The body was instantly reduced to ashes. Yet after the silver flames dissipated, many rice-sized droplets of silver liquid appeared in the air once again. Han Li had used the yin and yang properties of the spirit engulfing heavenly flames to force out all remaining blood, hidden within the frog's body. He flicked his sleeve. releasing a burst of azure light that gathered all the silver droplets together into a fist-sized silver sphere, which he then stored in the jade vial. Han Li could neither synthesize nor cultivate additional spirit blood from these true toad beasts, so he naturally did not wish to waste even a single drop. Thus, he repeated the same process with the remaining carcasses before him, eventually filling several jade vials with this legendary true toad blood. Only then did he let out a breath of relief, clearly satisfied with the results. Although he had successfully extracted the true toad blood, he did not rush to refine it into liquid form. Instead, he intended to first elevate his cultivation to the peak of the mid-deity transformation stage and break through this bottleneck. Upon reflection, his decision to cultivate along dual paths appeared to have been correct. With his powerful body and the abundance of pills at his disposal, he could likely reach that level within a century, or even within several decades. In contrast, ordinary cultivators would require several centuries to achieve the same. The only uncertainty lay in the time needed to break through the bottleneck. Afterward, Han Li released several giant ape puppets. He also summoned his second nascent soul and assigned it to manage and maintain everything within the cave abode. Once that was arranged, he sealed himself within the secret chamber and devoted himself entirely to cultivation. With a plentiful supply of pills and dragon-scale fruits, combined with the enhancement provided by the bone-tempering arts, Han Li's magical power steadily increased, and his physical body grew stronger with each passing day. During this period, in addition to cultivating the Provenance True Devil arts, he refined both of his hands by fusing them with the Divine Essence-fused Mountain and the Unbroken Cinque Devils. Afterward, he began integrating his 72 azure bamboo cloudswarm swords into key sections of his bone structure, following the method described in the 100 Meridian Refinement Mantra. If this process succeeded, his defensive capabilities would reach an astonishing level, especially when combined with the Provenance True Devil arts. Even if he faced a direct attack from a spatial tempering cultivator, he would be able to withstand it with his physical body alone and remain unharmed. Naturally, refining his hands required a different approach, and the integration into his skeletal structure was even more complex. This process would take a considerable amount of time. As a result, the doors to Han Li's secret chamber remained closed for a long period. Every few years, the second nascent soul would manifest as a projection and pass through the walls to deliver spirit medicines and fruits. Time passed quietly. Months turned into years, and in the blink of an eye, 60 years had gone by. One day, two masses of demonic chi, one black and one yellow, appeared on a small mountain less than 10 kilometers from Han Li's cave abode. Within these two clusters of chi, the demonic beings inside seemed to be engaged in discussion. Within the black chi, a pair of silver eyes flickered. Within the yellow chi, only a single crimson eye could be seen. They appeared to have seen through the illusion formation surrounding Han Li's cave abode and were cautiously observing from a distance. They did not act immediately. After a brief exchange, they withdrew. 3 days later, several more masses of demonic chi appeared outside Han Li's cave abode. This time they made no effort to conceal themselves. Fierce demonic winds surged outward, and thousands of ferocious beasts and strange insects gathered below. It was clear they intended to launch a direct assault. The demons in the sky varied in form. One was a massive three-headed python, with two smaller heads flanking a larger central one, giving it a sinister presence. Another was a giant wild boar, measuring 60 to 70 feet in length, with a pair of enormous silver tusks resembling forged metal. The remaining two resembled the leaders Han Li had once seen during a battle between beast hordes. One was a golden ape several dozen feet tall, holding a black trident. The other had the head of a cow and the body of a lion, its entire form resembling green jade. If Han Li had been present, he would have immediately recognized them as 6th and 7th grade demon beasts from the nearby mountain range. Among them, the cow-headed creature was the strongest. Already at the peak of the 7th grade, and only one step away from reaching the metamorphosis stage, For reasons unknown, these demon beasts had gathered to attack his cave abode. Han Li remained in seclusion and was unaware of the situation outside. However, the restrictions he had established as a deity transformation cultivator were not something creatures of this level could easily overcome. Under the direction of the demon beasts above the beast, hordes and insect swarms surged forward, charging toward the outermost layer of the illusion formation and immediately triggering the defensive arrays. Azure light flashed. Violent winds howled, stirring up sandstorms. Hundreds of massive rocks were carried by the wind, crashing down and instantly crushing countless beasts into pulp amid thunderous explosions. The beast horde fell into chaos, some even attempting to flee. At that moment, the cow-headed demon let out a long, threatening cry. The beasts below froze in fear and dared not retreat further. The other demons also exerted pressure, forcing the beasts to turn back and charge once more into the azure light. This time the wind surged again, but no rocks followed. Instead, countless blades of wind filled the air, leaving no path of escape. Thousands of beasts were cut apart by the wind blades, their cries echoing in terror. When the storm subsided, only a few hundred remained. Though lacking intelligence, their instincts drove them to flee in terror. The demons above exchanged glances. Suddenly the cow-headed demon spoke in a pleasant female voice. Though the language was unknown to both humans and demons, the other three responded in the same language. After a brief discussion, they ignored the fleeing beasts. Instead, they unleashed demonic winds that merged into a single black gale, rushing directly toward the cave abode. They intended to break the formation by brute force. Had they been 8th grade or higher, there might have been a chance. But as 6th and 7th grade beings, they had no such capability. 5-colored light appeared before the cave abode and surged outward. The black gale was instantly torn apart upon contact. The 4 demons retreated rapidly, regrouping in the air, their expressions filled with shock. Though they had not directly confronted the light, its aura alone filled them with fear. After another brief exchange, they also withdrew. From that moment on, no demon beasts approached the cave abode. Within a radius of 50 kilometers, no living creatures remained. The gates of Han Li's cave abode stayed closed throughout. Time continued to pass. Another 30 years went by. One day, a dragon's roar erupted from within the secret chamber. The chamber doors exploded open with a loud crash. Inside, a sphere of dazzling golden light hovered in the air. Han Li sat cross-legged within it. Behind him stood a golden projection with 3 heads and 6 arms. The projection remained within the golden light. Its features were still indistinct, but it had become far more solid than before. Like Han Li, it sat cross-legged, its 6 arms forming different hand seals. Suddenly, both Han Li and the projection trembled. A golden ripple spread outward, striking the chamber walls. 5-colored light flashed as the chamber shook violently. Within the golden light, pain appeared on Han Li's face. Sweat formed across his forehead. The golden sphere trembled uncontrollably, and the projection became unstable. A sharp cracking sound rang out. A thin line appeared across the golden light, like a fracture in glass. The projection shattered and vanished. Han Li exhaled, and the pain faded from his expression. The chamber returned to silence. After a long moment, he opened his eyes again, a faint wry smile forming on his face. This is the 3rd time I have failed to break through this bottleneck. It seems that relying on cultivation alone will not yield any results for now. I will have to seek another method, Han Li murmured to himself. Then, with a calm motion, he flipped his hand and produced an object engraved with a black flaming phoenix. It was none other than the small silver vial containing 3 black flame pills. Although black flame pills were regarded as the most effective spirit medicine for assisting late deity transformation, cultivators in breaking through, they could also be taken by those at the mid-deity transformation stage. However, due to the pill's intense power, any cultivator with insufficient cultivation or a weak body risked being incinerated by the black phoenix flames contained within. Han Li cultivated the spirit, engulfing heavenly flame, and followed a path of dual cultivation. As such, he did not share these concerns. In principle, he could consume one of the pills to attempt a breakthrough. However, doing so would reduce his supply of black flame pills when he later attempted to advance to the spatial tempering stage. This would significantly lower his chances of success. After all, black flame pills were extremely rare. Breaking through the mid-deity transformation bottleneck was only a matter of time for him. In contrast, countless cultivators remained trapped at the late deity transformation stage for their entire lives. Spatial tempering cultivators were far rarer, which clearly demonstrated the difficulty of that breakthrough. Therefore, it was far more prudent to preserve as many pills as possible for that stage. After considering the matter for a long time, Han Li revealed a faint wry smile. In the end, he put the vial away into his storage bracelet. He did not remain in seclusion. Instead, he stood up and left the secret chamber. Outside, a giant ape puppet was already waiting. Han Li raised his brows slightly. Before he could speak, the puppet stepped forward and presented a yellow rod-like object with both hands. Strange green patterns covered its surface. It was the profound heavenly fruit. Han Li's expression immediately became serious. He gestured, drawing the fruit into his hand. At the same time, blue light flickered within his eyes, allowing him to examine the internal structure. He discovered that the small speck of light inside had grown from the size of a pea to roughly that of a thumb. Holding the fruit, Han Li felt a faint sense of disappointment. During his time in Deep Heaven City, he had secretly visited ancient tome shops in search of information about the profound heavenly fruit. Strangely, regardless of how old the records were, none contained any mention of it or related treasures. If he had not previously learned of the profound goddess's palm in the human world, he likely would not even recognize what this fruit was. Even so, the fruit contained the power of the laws of a realm. It was undoubtedly a treasure that defied natural order. Naturally, Han Li had never revealed its existence to anyone. He injected spiritual power into the fruit once more, but there was still no reaction. He lightly stroked its surface and fell into contemplation. Over the years, he had continuously infused the fruit with that mysterious green liquid. Aside from the gradual growth of the inner light, no other changes had occurred. He did not know whether continued infusion would produce further effects, but for now it was the only option available. After carefully storing the fruit away, he went to his medicine garden. Within the garden, the xianxia dragon fruits and other spirit herbs had fully matured. The puppets managing the garden had already harvested a batch and stored them in a storage bracelet. Han Li was naturally pleased. He transferred all the spirit medicines into his own bracelet. Afterward, he waved a hand toward the puppet that had accompanied him. The second nascent soul immediately flew out and merged back into his body. Han Li narrowed his eyes slightly as he processed the influx of information. After a moment, he tapped the back of his head, releasing the second nascent soul back into the puppet. A cold smile appeared on his face. To think that a few mid-grade demon beasts would dare to attack my cave abode, it seems they have found some assistance. He walked into a hall within his cave abode. Inside was a large formation alongside what appeared to be a sacrificial altar. At the center sat an octagonal formation plate. Han Li formed several incantation seals and cast them onto the formation. A low buzzing sound followed. The formation glowed with white light, and a silver screen of light appeared above the plate. Countless white specks flickered across it. When he first established this cave abode, Han Li had placed myriad dragon beads across a radius of several hundred kilometers. His gaze swept across the light screen. He quickly located several black specks over 10 kilometers away. He formed a hand seal. Azure light surged from his body. With a few flashes, he exited the cave abode and vanished into the distance. At his current speed, such a distance required only a few breaths. Soon he arrived at the location. There he saw a three-headed giant python, a small green beast with the head of a cow and the body of a lion, and a vague grey figure hovering in mid-air. They appeared to be discussing something. The moment Han Li appeared above them, the three immediately fled. Two transformed into demonic winds, while the third escaped as a streak of silver light. Han Li gave a cold snort. 3 thin threads shot out from his sleeve. They vanished and reappeared instantly behind the fleeing figures. Red light flashed. The 3 demons were bound tightly and immobilized. The threads retracted, dragging the demons back to him. The cow-headed beast and the python showed clear fear. The grey-shrouded demon spoke its tone sharp and threatening, though Han Li did not understand its words. His expression darkened. He reached out toward the grey figure. 5 colored lights swept forward, dissolving the grey aura. The demon's true form was revealed and pulled into his grasp. Han Li pressed 5 fingers onto its head. It was a fish demon about 5 feet long, covered in golden scales, with 4 limbs and a human-like face. Its appearance was unsettling. Han Li remained indifferent. Golden light erupted from his hand. The demon screamed in agony, trembled violently, and quickly lost consciousness. Han Li had initiated a soul search. The other 2 demons trembled even more intensely. With Han Li's current power, extracting memories from a 6th-grade demon was effortless. After 5 minutes, he had obtained everything. Tian Peng race, offering, Lord of Treasured Light, these terms surfaced in his mind. He paused briefly before releasing his grip. The fish demon fell downward. In the next moment, the red thread around it expanded into a thick rope. Flames erupted, reducing the demon to ashes instantly. The rope returned to Han Li's sleeve as a thread. Only then did Han Li turn his attention to the remaining 2 demons. After a brief silence, he spoke in their language. "You 2 have some courage. You dared to attack my cave abode for a few woodbud flowers." The cow-headed beast, clearly more intelligent, replied, "Without the woodbud flowers, our brethren in the hidden Black Mountains cannot complete the required offering. If we fail, the Tian Peng race will punish us and erase our intelligence again. We had no choice, even knowing your strength." Han Li flipped his hand, producing a cluster of small purple flowers shaped like bells, releasing a faint fragrance. "This is what you want, correct?" The cow-headed beast stared for a moment before answering with a bitter smile. "Yes. Although there are many spirit mountains in the hidden Black Mountains, this flower only grows on the one you occupy." Han Li chuckled faintly. "This flower contains little spiritual qi and has no use in pill refinement, yet it is required for offerings. That is unusual. Without it, you would indeed face severe punishment. However, was it not overly reckless to believe you could seize my cave abode with the help of a sea dragon beast that has only just reached metamorphosis? You even promised it 10 pairs of golden marrow crystal insects. That is quite an investment." He paused briefly before continuing. "According to my knowledge, such creatures exist deep underground within rare ores. They are extremely difficult to find. Even if captured, they die and crystallize immediately. How are you able to obtain them alive?" The cow-headed beast replied coldly, "I can tell you. When the Tian Peng race first discovered this land, there were beings here far stronger than us. All of them were killed by 3 elders of the Tian Peng race. Only we were spared because we possess abilities useful for gathering offerings. Otherwise, we would have been eliminated long ago. So you truly possess a method to capture golden marrow crystal insects alive." Han Li's expression remained calm and unchanged, yet inwardly he felt a surge of satisfaction. "Indeed, our luminous beast race can identify such insects even when they are hidden among vast quantities of ore. This is an innate ability of our kind. In addition, we have a technique to prevent these insects from crystallizing." The small beast replied, its tone carrying a trace of pride. "Very well. In that case, I can overlook past matters. I can also provide you with woodbud flowers." Han Li's expression relaxed slightly as he spoke. "Truly, what are your terms?" The small beast was initially delighted, but it quickly regained its composure, aware that such an offer would not come without conditions. "The terms are simple. I will supply as many woodbud flowers as you require. In exchange, you will provide me with 1 pair of golden marrow crystal insects for every 10 flowers. Additionally, I have an interest in the golden coral sand you intend to offer to the Tian Peng race. 1 tael of that sand can be exchanged for 1 woodbud flower, Han Li said in a steady tone. The crystal insects are part of our tribute. We do not possess many, and 10 pairs have already been promised to the Lord of Treasured Light. The cow-headed beast replied, The Lord of Treasured Light, merely a metamorphosis stage sea beast. I can deal with it. I will give you 7 days to prepare. After that, come to my cave abode to exchange for woodbud flowers. If you fail to appear. Han Li left his sentence unfinished, but the implication was unmistakable. He flicked his sleeve, stirring a gentle breeze, and vanished from the spot without warning. The cow-headed beast and the 3-headed python were startled. Only then did they notice that the red threads binding them had also disappeared. After regaining their freedom, the 2 demon beasts exchanged glances. After a long pause, the 3-headed python spoke in a low voice. Has that man truly left? The cow-headed beast hesitated briefly before opening its mouth and expelling a green bead. The bead hovered in the air, rotating slowly, and released an azure barrier of light that enveloped both beasts. We should be safe now. This is a soundproof barrier formed from my inner core. If he attempts to eavesdrop using spiritual sense, I will detect it immediately, the small beast explained. The 3-headed python felt reassured. Are we going to trade with him for the woodbud flowers? This is not a decision we can make alone. We must consult the others. However, if we are to gather all the required tribute items, this may be our only option. The cow-headed beast replied with a bitter smile. Golden marrow crystal insects and golden coral sand are both extremely rare. If we exchange them for woodbud flowers now, we may not be able to gather enough next time, the python cautioned. We have no alternative. While those items are difficult to obtain, we can still find them if we invest enough time. The woodbud flowers, however, are a different matter. They are extinct everywhere except on that mountain where the man resides. Only he can provide them, the cow-headed beast said with resignation. In that case, when the Tian Peng race sends people to collect the tribute, why not inform them? Let them deal with that man instead, the 3-headed python suggested. That would be equivalent to courting death. Have you forgotten the last lesson? Even if the Tian Peng race can eliminate him, they will take all the woodbud flowers on that mountain. Yet we will still be required to provide the same amount in the future. If we reveal that the flowers are nearly extinct in the hidden Black Mountains, do you think they will spare us? If we fail to supply enough, we will be severely punished regardless of how much we compensate with other items. Those woodbud flowers are of great importance to the Tian Peng race. If not for their caution toward the black infernal mist, they would have already stationed forces on the island. The cow-headed beast said coldly. But if this continues, even if we survive this time, we will not be able to gather enough for the next tribute. The outcome will be the same. The slave marks placed on us mean that if we move more than 5,000 kilometers away, we will self-detonate. The 3-headed python said urgently, I am aware. However, there is no need for excessive concern. Have you forgotten the promise made by that powerful being within the black infernal mist? If we continue supplying him with spirit stones for another century, he should fully master his abilities and be able to remove our slave marks. At that time we can leave freely, the cow-headed beast replied in a serious tone. But can we truly trust that promise? Although he was once our senior, he devoured the core of an ancient ghost while fleeing into the mist. His body is now half ghost, half demon. If something goes wrong, the python said hesitantly, you fear he will break his word. Rest assured. That senior also belongs to the luminous beast race and holds a deep grudge against the Tian Peng race. He will stand with us. Moreover, we have secretly supplied him with spirit stones for centuries. He has no reason to refuse us, the cow-headed beast said, shaking its head. It seems I was overthinking. Still, this black infernal mist. What lies within it to make the Tian Peng race so wary? Has that senior discovered anything? The python asked curiously. He has not. However, something within it is certainly dangerous. Even with his current strength, he only dares to remain at the outskirts. He does not venture deeper. This mist has existed for countless years. It is said that when it first appeared, the Tian Peng race was at its peak, ruling nearly the entire flying spirit race. The cow-headed beast replied, "That is true. Regardless of what lies within it offers no benefit to us. With our cultivation, we would perish the moment we enter," the python said with a sigh. After conversing for a while longer, the small beast withdrew its demon core. The two demon beasts transformed into streaks of demonic wind and departed. Not long after they left, space nearby fluctuated. A faint azure humanoid figure emerged silently. It was Han Li, who had supposedly departed earlier. He looked toward the direction the beasts had gone, a faint smile on his face. Then he made a grasping motion toward the spot where they had stood. A flash of golden light appeared, and a tiny golden insect, no larger than a fingernail, emerged. It was a gold-devouring beetle, reduced to less than a tenth of its original size. The insect fluttered its wings and landed on Han Li's palm. Han Li pointed at it and closed his eyes, withdrawing the strand of spiritual sense he had placed within it. Through this, he obtained the entirety of the beast's conversation. Black infernal mist, half ghost, half demon, slave marks. Interesting. If the Tian Peng race cannot reside on the island, then I have little to fear. Who would have expected such low-level demon beasts to possess a body refinement material like the golden marrow? Crystal insect. Even body integration elders in Deep Heaven City cannot obtain it. If I can gather a few more ingredients, I will be able to solidify my provenance true devil projection, much like the Vajra Dharmic body of the Buddhist sects. As for the golden coral sand, I also have an urgent need for it. If I refine my flesh and blood with it, my physical body will become even stronger. Han Li murmured to himself before letting out a quiet laugh. His laughter ceased abruptly as a thought crossed his mind. Behind him, the projections of a massive bird and a five-colored phoenix appeared. A pair of translucent wings extended from his back. With a single gentle flap, his body transformed into a streak of light. A long azure rift appeared in the air as though space itself had been cut open before vanishing into the distance. After refining his thunderstorm wings into a spirit treasure, his speed had increased several-fold. In just over 2 days, he left the island's boundaries and arrived above a stretch of ocean tens of thousands of kilometers away. This region was filled with coral reefs of varying sizes. The largest resembled small islands, while the smallest could barely support a single person. Han Li hovered in mid-air above a reef spanning several acres, his arms folded. This was the territory of the so-called Lord of Treasured Light. He had learned of this location through soul-searching the fish demon. This Lord of Treasured Light was a recently advanced 8th-grade demon beast. Around 200 years ago, it had arrived here and established its domain after subduing several nearby sea beasts. The cow-headed beast and its companions had once traded spirit medicines with its subordinates. That was their only connection. Upon realizing they could not overcome Han Li's cave abode, they sought this demon beast's assistance, offering golden marrow crystal insects as payment. Naturally, they had done so under the assumption that Han Li was merely a nascent soul cultivator. Otherwise, they would not have taken such a risk. Han Li did not hesitate. He raised a hand, and from within his sleeve, a glossy black palm extended downward toward the reef. A thunderous roar echoed as the projection of a small mountain emerged from his palm. It rapidly expanded amid a burst of grey light, solidifying as it descended. The divine essence-fused mountain grew to over 10,000 feet in size. The divine essence-fused light radiating from its base swept outward, enveloping a vast section of the ocean below. Before the mountain had even descended onto the coral reef, a thunderous boom had already echoed outward. The disturbance immediately alerted a concealed cave dwelling beneath the reef. Moments later, the surrounding seawater parted, and 2 spheres of demonic qi, one blue, one red, emerged abruptly. An enraged voice rang out from within one of them. "Who dares to cause trouble before our cave abode? Do you not know that the Lord of Treasured Light resides here?" Han Li offered no reply. He merely raised a finger and pointed casually toward the mountain below. The grey light beneath the mountain surged forward at once, enveloping the 2 spheres of demonic qi. After a few brief flashes, Two cries of agony echoed from within the light. The demons inside the spheres self-detonated, dissolving into a spray of blood. They were only sixth-grade sea beasts. Hanli had no reason to concern himself with them. In the next instant, the mountain finally struck the ocean's surface. A massive vortex, roughly 500 meters in radius, formed immediately under the force of the divine essence-fused light. The surrounding seawater roared violently as if some enormous creature lurked beneath. The entire sea region descended into chaos. Countless fish and crustaceans fled in panic, along with over a dozen sea beasts exceeding 10 feet in length. Hanli's actions soon provoked a furious roar from the depths. Immediately after, 5 bursts of black chi erupted from the edges of the vortex. The foremost surge condensed into a burly man with bulbous growths on his head. He wore blue bone armor and wielded a pair of large black war hammers. A cold smile appeared on Han Li's face. Before the demon could speak, Han Li formed a hand seal. The divine essence-fused mountain trembled, then vanished instantly. At nearly the same moment, the armored man sensed the sky dim. He looked up to find the mountain already above them, crashing downward with overwhelming force. Even before impact, the violent winds it generated made it difficult for him to remain steady. His expression shifted sharply. He hurled both war hammers toward the mountain while transforming into a blue worm over 100 feet long, fleeing at once. 2 dull impacts followed. The war hammers expanded to several dozen feet in size, yet failed to leave even a trace on the mountain. Instead, caught by the divine essence-fused light, they were dragged downward uncontrollably. As for the blue worm, it did not escape far. After flying just over 300 feet, a streak of grey light flashed toward it, freezing it in place. Han Li raised a finger again, his expression unchanged. The mountain rotated mid-air. A surge of immense power erupted from its base. The immobilized worm managed only a cry of terror before its body was crushed into fragments, leaving only its massive head intact. Worms possessed exceptionally strong bodies, but an 8th-grade sea worm could not withstand the power of the divine essence-fused mountain. From beginning to end, it never even saw Han Li clearly before its body was destroyed. Its soul, however, survived within the head. It activated a secret technique, transforming the head into a sphere of sharp blue light. It broke free from the grey light and fled at full speed. At that moment, a silver fire raven shot forth with a piercing cry. Moving so quickly, it struck the worm head in an instant. Another scream followed. A miniature green worm burst from the head, attempting to escape, but the silver flames reduced it to nothing. Only the head remained suspended in the air. Its survival was due solely to Han Li's deliberate restraint of the spirit engulfing heavenly flames. Meanwhile, the other 4 sea beasts within the black chi had already been obliterated. As the mountain rotated, they were reduced to blood mist without resistance, their souls completely destroyed. After eliminating all 5 demon beasts, a faint smile appeared on Han Li's face. With a wave of his hand, the worm head flew toward him. He held it effortlessly. After examining it briefly with narrowed eyes, white light flashed from his hand, and the head vanished into his storage bracelet. He then struck out with his palm toward the distant mountain. It blurred, reverted into a projection, and disappeared entirely. With that done, Han Li turned to leave. However, he glanced at the still churning vortex below. After a moment's hesitation, he changed his mind. Azure light surged around him as he descended into the vortex. The seawater parted before him. Within moments, he arrived at an underwater mountain beneath the reef. He cast a brief, indifferent glance at it, then flicked a finger. A streak of golden sword chi shot forward and vanished into space. A loud explosion followed. Golden and blue light burst outward. A layer of blue light appeared only to shatter instantly. A white coral gate was revealed halfway up the mountain. A faint smile touched Han Li's lips. This was likely the cave abode of the Lord of Treasured Light. Another streak of sword chi flashed past. The coral gate was destroyed in a burst of golden light, revealing an interior free of seawater, a passage of azure hue stretching inward. Han Li's eyes flickered. He stepped inside. The passage extended nearly 1,000 feet. When he emerged into the hall beyond, his gaze brightened slightly. The hall spanned 500 to 600 feet and was remarkably luxurious. The floor was paved with flawless white jade. Along the walls, thumb-sized glowing beads were embedded at intervals of about 10 feet. Above, a crimson coral formation hung from the ceiling, radiating gentle warmth that dispelled the dampness typical of underwater dwellings. Though mildly surprised by the opulence, Hanli quickly shifted his attention to a grey-white stone block placed to one side of the hall. The block appeared crude, made of ordinary stone. If not for its placement before an intricately crafted jade table, it could easily be mistaken for a simple slab. Yet, in a hall filled with brilliance, its plainness made it stand out. Hanli tilted his head slightly, considering it. He extended a hand, attempting to draw it closer. An unexpected result followed. Despite the strong suction from his palm, the stone block did not move at all. His expression shifted slightly. After a brief pause, he stepped forward and touched it with a fingertip. A chilling sensation flowed into his arm, but before he could withdraw, it turned scorching. He was surprised. Placing his full hand upon it, he felt alternating heat and cold, which then became a steady warmth, comfortable and soothing. He examined his arm with spiritual sense, but found nothing unusual. Frowning slightly, golden light radiated from his body. He clenched his fingers and attempted to lift the block. Despite its modest size, it did not budge in the slightest. Now genuinely astonished, Hanli placed his other hand on it. One hand turned glossy black, the other translucent white. His joints cracked as he exerted immense force. The hall trembled with a dull rumble. The stone block shifted slightly, then settled back. Cracks spread across the floor, reducing nearby jade tiles to powder and exposing the rugged black ground beneath. Profound fine iron. Hanli immediately recognized the material, his expression filled with surprise. He withdrew his gaze briefly, then refocused on the stone block. Part of it had sunk into the black ground, as if naturally rooted there. This was no ordinary object. Its weight alone surpassed anything he had encountered. Even without fully activating the Provenant's true devil arts, the fact that he could not move it, using both his physical strength and the 100 Meridian Refinement mantra, suggested a weight approaching 10 tons. He recalled that the heaviest known material was profound heavenly heavy metal, where even a fragment the size of a fingernail could crush a grown man. Yet this block appeared no less dense, perhaps even heavier. With that thought, Hanli continued testing. Golden light flashed as sword chi struck the block. The sword chi dissipated, leaving the block completely unharmed. This did not surprise him. If such a material could not endure even a single strike, it would have been disappointing. Instead, his interest deepened. He flipped his hand, producing a small sword several inches long. Golden light flared as it expanded into a foot-long longsword. Without hesitation, Hanli raised the blade and brought it down upon the stone block. A thunderous boom, even louder than before, reverberated as countless streaks of golden light burst against the stone block. Silver flames quickly engulfed the entire surface, and a series of sharp, crackling explosions rang out like firecrackers. Despite this, the stone block showed no visible change. However, when Hanli swept his spiritual sense across it, a faint trace of satisfaction appeared on his face. He immediately sat down, cross-legged beside the block formed a hand seal, and continued to refine it with his spirit engulfing heavenly flames. Streams of pure azure spiritual power flowed steadily from his hands into the silver flames. Time passed quietly. A full day and night went by in a blink. Suddenly, Hanli let out a low shout. The silver flames receded, reverting into a fire raven before vanishing into his sleeve. He rose to his feet and approached the stone block again, examining it carefully. At first glance, it appeared completely unchanged. However, as blue light flickered within his eyes, he detected faint signs of melting on its surface. These traces were imperceptible to ordinary vision, but they could not escape his spirit eyes. By his estimate, even at this pace, it would take several decades to fully melt the block. Rather than feeling discouraged, Hanli was quietly pleased. To a cultivator of his level, several decades meant little. Moreover, this stone block was clearly an extraordinary material. He doubted that the Lord of Treasured Light had been able to move it. More likely, the cave abode had been constructed around it. Transporting the block would be troublesome. Its weight was immense, and placing it into a storage bracelet would collapse the storage space. Thus it could only be moved manually. Even if he fully activated his Provenance True Devil arts, he could carry at most a third of it at a time. Any more and flight would be impossible. Han Li stood in silence, staring at the stone as he considered his options. After a long pause, he flicked his sleeve. A faint buzzing sound followed as two golden flowers flew out, transforming mid-air into thumb-sized golden beetles. They were two of his mature gold-devouring beetles. The beetles emitted sharp cries and immediately landed on the stone block, beginning to gnaw at it from different directions. Han Li watched intently without blinking. Although these beetles were reputed to devour all things, he held little confidence in their ability to damage such a material. In the next moment, however, his doubts vanished. Their progress was extremely slow, but after some time, two shallow indentations appeared on the surface. The beetles could indeed consume it. A trace of delight surfaced in Han Li's eyes. Yet only moments later, both beetles suddenly dropped from the stone and crashed heavily to the ground. Han Li was slightly startled. He raised a hand, drawing one beetle into his grasp, with a flash of golden light. Immediately, he noticed that it had become far heavier than usual. His brows lifted slightly. Aside from the weight, the beetle seemed unharmed. Its wings and limbs still trembled faintly. After examining it for a while, Han Li understood the cause. The material was too extraordinary. Even the gold-devouring beetles could not digest it quickly. Consuming even a small amount had exceeded their tolerance. They would need time to recover. With this in mind, he stored the two beetles away and released another pair. The process repeated. Soon these beetles also became too heavy and fell only to be collected by Han Li. Next, he released 4 beetles to replace them. As time passed, he continued this method. By the end of most of a day, after deploying over 1,000 beetles in succession, roughly 1/10 of the stone block had been consumed. The block was now divided into 3 sections. Han Li nodded, slightly satisfied with the result. Forming another hand seal, brilliant golden light erupted from his body. A projection of 3 heads and 6 arms appeared behind him. He bent down and exerted force, slowly lifting one of the 3 sections. It felt as though he were bearing a small mountain, yet he could still fly with it, albeit with difficulty. A faint smile appeared on his face. He set the block down and conducted another thorough search of the cave abode, checking for anything else of value. In the end, aside from a few marine materials and some spirit stones, nothing else drew his attention. He was not disappointed. He had not expected much. After storing those items, he returned to the hall. This time, he moved the remaining 2 stone sections to a secluded location within the cave and concealed them with an illusion formation. Then, carrying the final section, he departed. When Han Li emerged above the ocean, spiritual light shimmered around him. His thunderstorm wings unfolded, accompanied by the projections of an azure bird and a rainbow phoenix. With a single flap, he shot forward like a streak of light and vanished into the distance. Even with his wings, the stone's weight forced him to stop and recover every few hours. 3 days later, he returned to his cave abode in the hidden Black Mountain ranges and placed the stone in his secret chamber. Over the next 2 days, he remained inside, conducting various experiments. He discovered that the stone was not only extremely hard, but also resistant to ice-sealing lightning strikes and devilish chi corrosion. Aside from the spirit engulfing heavenly flames, none of his other flames could affect it at all. Even those flames had only minimal effect. This material was ideal for forging top-tier defensive treasures. At the same time, due to its weight, it could also serve as a powerful offensive weapon, similar to the divine essence-fused mountain. These were the conclusions Han Li reached. As for how to use it, he needed further consideration. At that moment, a thought occurred to him. He inspected the gold-devouring beetles that had consumed the material. The sight surprised him. All the mature beetles had entered a dormant state as if preparing to evolve. They were already fully matured. If they evolved again, it could only be through mutation. Hanley felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. However, this made his decision regarding the material even more difficult. After half a day of contemplation, he decided to wait and observe the beetle's transformation before making a final choice. 2 more days passed. On the 3rd day, the 7th day, since his agreement with the cow-headed demon beast, the visitors arrived. Early in the morning, not only the cow-headed beast and its companion appeared, but also the golden ape and the massive boar. All 4 demon beasts stood outside the cave staring at the azure light barrier with evident caution. None dared to make a sound, waiting silently. Near noon, the azure light dissipated like mist under sunlight, revealing a massive stone gate over 200 feet tall. With a deep rumble, the gate opened on its own, exposing a glowing white passage. Enter, an indifferent voice sounded from within. The demon beasts trembled slightly and obeyed without hesitation. Aside from the small cow-headed beast, the others had to shrink their bodies before passing through the gate. Soon after, they arrived in an ancient stone hall. Hanley sat calmly on a stone chair, observing the 4 beasts one by one. His gaze lingered slightly longer on the golden ape. Before they could speak, he waved his sleeve. A massive object fell to the ground with a heavy thud. It was a blue worm's head. All 4 beasts were visibly shaken. "This is the head of the Lord of Treasured Light," Han Li said evenly. "Now that he is dead, your agreement with him is void. Since you have come, I assume you have made your decision. Have you brought what I requested?" The beasts sensed the lingering aura of an 8th-grade demon beast from the head. A chill ran through them. "What choice do we have?" "We have brought the items, Senior," the cow-headed beast replied with a strained smile after exchanging glances with the others. "Good. I have also prepared the woodbud flowers you require. Once I confirm your items are satisfactory, I will hand them over." Hanley raised a hand and a flash of white light appeared. A large rectangular jade box formed in his grasp. When he opened it, a rich floral fragrance spread through the air. Inside were over 100 thumb-sized golden bell-shaped flowers. Under closer inspection, he realized that the small bells were emitting dense wood-attributed spiritual chi. In truth, they were tiny golden flowers shaped like bells. They appeared lifelike, as though they had been cast from pure gold. There are indeed many woodbud flowers here, and they all seem to be over 1,000 years old, the massive ape said, with a low hum, its expression revealing clear astonishment upon seeing them. Hanley chuckled softly. "Woodbud flowers? You've seen them before. Then what about the golden marrow crystal insects and the golden coral sand?" The small beast's eyes flickered with excitement, but it maintained a calm tone as it replied, "I'm afraid the quantity is limited. However, these 100 flowers are sufficient to exchange for 10 pairs of beetles, according to our agreement." Hanley smiled. He casually tossed a jade box forward, letting it float in mid-air. Then, with a flip of his other hand, he produced a long jade box. It opened, revealing a container filled to the brim with woodbud flowers. The sight left the surrounding demon beasts momentarily stunned. Hanley glanced at them and spoke leisurely. "This should be enough. Bring out the crystal insects and coral sand you've prepared." Startled, the demon beasts exchanged a few quiet words among themselves. Eventually, the small beast took out several fist-sized crystals, while the others produced palm-sized black gourds. In a short moment, 15 crystals and 3 black gourds were placed within the hall. Hanley's eyes brightened slightly as he silently reached toward them. At that moment, one of the crystals rose into the air and landed directly in his hand. He examined it closely. The crystal was clear and translucent. Within it, a pair of pure white insects lay motionless as though they had been fossilized. His powerful spiritual sense instantly split into countless fine threads, penetrating the crystal and reaching the small insect at its top. A faint milky white glow emerged from the insect's surface. Then it opened its mouth and released a droplet of golden liquid which flowed over its body. Brilliant light radiated from the crystal, filling the surroundings with shimmering golden brilliance. Seeing this, Han Li's expression shifted slightly. He tightened his grip, applying immense force to the crystal. The crystal merely flickered, with light remaining completely unharmed. Han Li murmured, "It truly is a golden marrow crystal insect. Senior, please be assured. We may be bold, but we would never dare deceive you," the small bull-headed beast said with a strained smile. "Is that so?" Han Li replied calmly. He set the crystal aside and flicked his sleeve, summoning a black gourd into his hand. Tilting it, he poured out a stream of purple gold sand. Soon a pile nearly a meter high formed on the ground. Han Li picked up a single grain and brought it close to his eye. He studied it for a long moment before emptying the remaining 2 gourds, combining all the sand into a single pile. After examining it, he said casually, "Not bad. This golden coral sand is of the highest quality. With the addition of 15 pairs of crystal insects, these 2 boxes of woodbud flowers are still more valuable. However, I will agree to the exchange." Upon hearing this, the 4 demon beasts nodded with visible relief. Han Li tossed the 2 jade boxes toward them. The small beast and the golden-furred ape carefully stored them away. Meanwhile, Han Li waved his sleeve across the ground. In a swirl of azure mist, the crystals and gourds vanished without a trace. "I am satisfied with this trade. If you obtain more golden coral sand or other rare materials in the future, you may exchange them with me. I possess more than just woodbud flowers, and I will not treat you unfairly. You may leave." Having no intention of prolonging the meeting, Han Li dismissed them. Under the pressure of his overwhelming aura, the demon beasts did not dare speak further. They respectfully withdrew from the cave residence and quickly departed in a gust of demonic wind. They traveled over 500 kilometers in one continuous flight before finally stopping and letting out long breaths. Soon after, they gathered together once more. The massive boar snorted excitedly. "Excellent. I didn't expect we would obtain so many woodbud flowers at once, and they're all over 1,000 years old. If we deliver them, the Tian Peng race will certainly not punish us, even if we offer nothing else." The huge ape frowned slightly. Yes, this was unexpected. If I remember correctly, there weren't nearly this many woodbud flowers on that mountain. Could it be that he discovered hidden areas during his exploration? From his tone, it seems he has even more. The 3-headed python glanced around before speaking. That is likely the case. Since he presented so many at once, he probably holds even more. The Tian Peng race values these flowers greatly, which means they are extremely rare. Most likely they are a specialty unique to our hidden Black Mountains. The small beast pondered briefly before saying, "Regardless of their rarity, it has nothing to do with us. As long as we endure for 100 years and remove our slave markings, we can leave this place. However, we must continue supplying that master with high-grade spirit stones. If we fail, all these years will have been wasted. With these woodbud flowers, another 100 years is not a concern. The real issue is spirit stones. Low-grade ones are useless to us, and mid-grade ones are of no value to the master. As for high-grade spirit stones, the mine has already been exhausted. On top of that, the master demands 4 top-grade spirit stones of different attributes. Across the entire island, nearly all top-grade stones are water-attributed. Exchanging for the others is beyond our ability," the yellow-furred ape said with a low hum. The massive boar muttered, "According to the master, those top-grade spirit stones are necessary to break through a bottleneck. Without them, advancement will be extremely difficult." The 4 demons fell into silence. After a moment, the central head of the 3-headed python spoke slowly. Previously, it would have been impossible, but now with this powerful senior arriving from elsewhere, he may possess spirit stones of other attributes. We have all considered that, the small beast replied cautiously. But at our cultivation level, possessing top-grade spirit stones would attract suspicion. We should first consider other methods. Only if we have no alternatives should we approach him. That is reasonable. After dealing with the Tian Peng race's envoy, we can reconsider, the huge ape said. The others nodded in agreement, having no better ideas. Soon after, the four demons transformed into four clouds of demonic qi and flew off in different directions. At that same time, Han Li remained inside his secluded chamber, examining the crystal insects in his hand. His gaze shifted as he quietly reflected. The golden marrow crystal insects were renowned among both demons and humans. Even so, he had only managed to obtain a very small number alive. He had also learned that each pair came at an extraordinary cost, enough to exhaust the wealth of a high-grade cultivator. Thus, when he discovered that 6th and 7th grade demon beasts could provide them, he had been genuinely pleased. The crystal insects had numerous uses. They could serve as a primary material to advance his cultivation, and they also produced noticeable effects in body refinement. By applying the golden marrow they excreted onto his body, he could cleanse his marrow and essence, strengthening his physical form further. However, given the current strength of his body, he expected the improvement to be limited. Among these uses, however, Han Li was most interested in a lesser-known third application. That was to use the crystal insects to temper the projection of his provenance true devil art into a true corporeal form. With the immense power of this technique, he could fuse it with the provenance true devil, forming a formidable incarnation capable of leveling mountains and calming seas. Similar techniques existed within Buddhist sects involving the condensation of Vajra bodies. While the method itself was not complex and widely known, it required not only the golden marrow crystal insects, but also several other legendary spiritual medicines. These materials were just as rare as the insects themselves. Gathering them all would depend entirely on chance, making it unreliable. Han Li stared at the crystal in his hand, lost in thought. After a moment, he flicked his wrist, producing 4 additional crystals. To condense the projection of the provenance true devil art, 10 pairs of crystal insects were required. As for the remaining 5 pairs, he intended to use them directly to strengthen his body and assist in breaking through the bottleneck of the mid-deity transformation stage. With this plan settled, he had a clear direction for the next 5 years. Without hesitation, he took 1 crystal in hand and summoned a layer of pure azure light around it, then closed his eyes. Stimulated by his spiritual power, the 2 motionless insects within the crystal began to tremble. They opened their mouths, and each produced a drop of golden liquid. The droplets passed through the crystal and flowed onto Han Li's hand, merging with the surrounding azure spiritual qi. In the next moment, the golden liquid shone with brilliant light. The golden glow and azure qi fused together, gradually spreading along his arm. In an instant, his entire arm was enveloped in golden radiance. When the light faded, the skin of his arm had turned a shimmering gold. Han Li raised his arm and examined it quietly, murmuring to himself. A faint pulse of golden light emerged once more, and a layer of shimmering white substance drifted away from his arm, floating into the air. His expression remained calm and composed as he continued circulating his spiritual power, steadily maintaining the transformation. 5 years could not be considered either long or short. During this period, Han Li not only fully absorbed the golden marrow from 5 pairs of crystal insects, but also refined the golden coral sand together with other medicinal substances into liquid form and merged it into his flesh. As a result, the 5 pairs of golden marrow crystal insects disappeared, along with 3 gourds of golden coral sand. On this day, Han Li opened his eyes from meditation and slowly raised his hands. He glanced at his seemingly ordinary palms, and a strange expression appeared on his face. I have absorbed a great amount of golden marrow and golden coral sand to temper my body. My flesh has become extremely strong, yet I have made no progress in breaking through the bottleneck of the mid-stage. Could it be that the opportunity has still not arrived? Han Li sighed softly and was about to close his eyes again when a streak of azure light suddenly flashed from the wall of the secluded chamber. His second nascent soul shot in, wrapped in a ball of black light, and began chattering excitedly as it leapt around his hand. Han Li was momentarily startled, but soon let out a faint chuckle. I almost forgot. Those fellows from the Tian Peng race are about to arrive on the island. I should take this chance to learn something about this foreign race. After muttering to himself, he rose to his feet and walked outside. Although he had not stepped out of his room for several years, he had long instructed his second nascent soul to control puppets and monitor the actions of the 4 demon beasts. Through this, he had overheard their private discussions and learned that an envoy from the Tian Peng race would soon arrive on the island. With another foreign race about to appear, the demons had already made preparations to receive them. When Han Li had killed the Lord of Treasured Light, he had used the spirit engulfing heavenly flame to devour his soul. Now he felt some regret for not performing a soul search beforehand. After all, an 8th-grade metamorphosed demon beast should have possessed considerable knowledge of the surrounding region. Although he had already used soul searching on the golden fish demon beast, the latter had not ventured far into the sea and knew very little. It only knew that the ocean was called the Scarlet Devil Ocean, and that the island Han Li occupied was known as Dark Infernal Island. In truth, it was merely a peninsula. On this peninsula, only a small portion was occupied by the hidden Black Mountains. Most of the land was shrouded in black infernal mist. Fortunately, the peninsula was still connected to the Feng Yuan continent. He had not been transported to some unfamiliar continent, which greatly relieved him. As long as he remained on the Feng Yuan continent, there would be a way to return to human territory. In the surrounding seas near the peninsula, there existed a winged foreign race known as the Flying Spirit Tribe, which governed the region. They were merely a branch of the Feng Peng race, and among its many branches, they were considered relatively weak. Many demon beasts had been driven from the continent into the ocean by the Flying Spirit Tribe. Otherwise, the fish demon would not have known even this much. Aside from this, the fish demon had no further reliable information. It only vaguely remembered that the Tian Peng race possessed wings and could transform into enormous legendary birds. During battle, drawing upon that ability for support. This was something even humans were aware of. For this reason, Han Li was quite interested in witnessing the Tian Peng envoy that had come to collect tribute. Not long afterward, Han Li transformed into a streak of azure light and flew several hundred kilometers through the air. A half-foot-long golden insect crawled along his shoulder. As he flew, Han Li gently stroked the gold-devouring beetle that had recently awakened. Its appearance had not changed, but its weight had increased dramatically. After consuming that strange stone material, the beetles had become many times heavier. Fortunately, Han Li had already tested them and confirmed that their original agility had returned, and each one possessed astonishing strength. A single beetle could easily bite and drag an object weighing over 500 kilograms. This result had left Han Li somewhat astonished. Aside from these 2 points, he had not discovered any other differences among the 5,000 mutated beetles. It was unclear whether there were no further changes or if he had simply not yet uncovered them. Feeling a trace of disappointment, Han Li did not know what else to do with the 3 peculiar stones. A day later, a streak of azure light appeared above a low, flat mountain. The light flickered slightly before fading away and disappearing. Han Li fully concealed both his presence and his flight light, while also reducing his speed significantly. After passing over a small lake, he arrived above a modest green mountain covered with bamboo nearly 10 meters tall. At the center of the mountain, more than 1,000 bull-headed lion-bodied beasts were grazing. Han Li observed them briefly, before shifting his gaze toward the surrounding smaller peaks. At that moment, white mist filled the air. A blue light flickered in Han Li's eyes. Activating his bright sight spirit eyes, he pierced through the fog and saw a green stone gate. It was the cave dwelling of the small bull-headed beast. A faint smile appeared on Han Li's face as he rose higher into the air. After reaching an altitude of 10 kilometers, he stopped. He then formed several spell seals with his hands. Immediately, clouds of mist gathered in the surrounding air. In the blink of an eye, his figure was concealed within an ordinary grey cloud. At that moment, his shoulder trembled slightly. The large beetle emitted a burst of golden light and shrank to the size of a pea before flying toward the small mountain. Han Li glanced at it briefly. Once it disappeared into the mountain, he remained motionless within the cloud. A quarter of an hour later, light flashed in another part of the sky. 3 large silver birds arrived riding upon 2 currents of demonic wind. Han Li narrowed his eyes and focused on them. Each bird had a body over 10 meters long, resembling enormous hawks. Their bodies shimmered with silver light as if their feathers were forged from metal. Their deep purple eyes appeared especially sharp. Although the 3 birds were deliberately restraining their speed upon spotting the small mountain, they spread their wings. White lightning flashed across their bodies as they surged forward. A low rumble of thunder echoed in their wake. Soon after, the 3 birds arrived before the mist-shrouded mountain, lightning still flickering around them. They folded their wings, and silver light flashed as they transformed into 2 men and 1 woman, foreign beings with silver wings. So these are Tian Peng beings. Han Li observed closely, a faint trace of vigilance appearing in his expression. The 2 men looked heroic, while the woman appeared delicate. Aside from their wings, they closely resembled young humans. Judging from their auras, all 3 were at the deity transformation stage. The man, who appeared around 30 years old, possessed mid-stage deity transformation cultivation, while the other 2 were at the early stage. All 3 wore plain white robes. The 2 men had silver headbands, while the woman wore a shawl. After confirming their strength, Han Li relaxed slightly. He silently recited an incantation, completely suppressing his aura, and slowly drifted downward. The 3 Tian Peng beings noticed nothing above them. They simply hovered in front of the small mountain, waiting calmly. Moments later, 2 gusts of demonic wind arrived, revealing the enormous boar and the 3-headed python. The python immediately smiled and said, "Esteemed lords, welcome. Fellow Taoists Kui and Jin are currently inspecting the tribute and preparing a feast. We hope you will honor us with your presence." The 30-year-old man replied indifferently, "There is no need for such trouble. We will leave as soon as the tribute is collected." The other 2 also appeared indifferent. Given the disparity in cultivation, it was only natural. To them, the 2 demons were of little significance. If not for the importance of the tribute, they would not have bothered to speak at all. At that moment, the white mist around the mountain parted, and the green stone gate slowly opened. The small bull-headed beast and the massive golden ape emerged, offering apologies as they invited the 3 Tian Peng beings into their cave residence. The other 2 demons followed closely behind. Unnoticed by anyone at the instant the gates closed, a faint breeze swept past outside. Inside, the 4 demons respectfully received the 3 Tian Peng beings. Although they had not yet fully transformed, tables and chairs had already been arranged. The 3 Tian Peng beings took their seats without ceremony, while the 4 demons stood deferentially at their sides. After sitting down, the younger man spoke directly. "Enough with the formalities. Tell us, has the tribute been properly prepared?" The small bull-headed beast trembled slightly and quickly replied, "Esteemed lords, most of the tribute has been prepared. However, some items have already become extinct on this island, and we were unable to find them." The older man's expression darkened. "Not prepared? You are well aware of the consequences if the tribute is incomplete. Without it, what value do your lives have?" The small beast shuddered and hurriedly recited what it had prepared beforehand. "Esteemed lord, please calm your anger. Although we are missing certain materials, we have prepared 50 woodbud flowers. We hope this will satisfy you." "What? 50 woodbud flowers?" The 3 Tian Peng beings exchanged glances, faint smiles appearing on their faces. A thought flashed through the older man's mind, and his expression turned stern. "You had better not think of using immature woodbud flowers to deceive us." The small beast raised his brow in alarm and hurriedly replied, "We would not dare act in such a manner. Honored lords, please inspect the age of the spirit flowers yourselves." At the same time, the massive golden-furred ape flipped its palm. A flash of white light appeared, and 2 jade boxes filled with woodbud flowers materialized before it. Holding them with both hands, it respectfully presented them to the Tian Peng beings. The younger Tian Peng man accepted the boxes with suspicion and opened them. In an instant, Dazzling golden light shone forth and a rich medicinal fragrance spread through the air. All three Tian Peng beings were startled, but their expressions quickly shifted to delight. The Tian Peng woman picked up one of the flowers and examined it closely. With clear excitement, she said, "These are indeed woodbud flowers that have matured for over 1,000 years. Their quality is exceptional." "That is correct," the older man said, his smile fading slightly. "You seldom present flowers of such quality. Speak, what other materials are you lacking?" Hearing this, the four demon beasts relaxed and explained their situation. They then produced the rest of their tribute and presented it for inspection. The younger man began to examine the items one by one. The golden marrow crystal insects and golden coral sand are somewhat insufficient, and the quantity of azure lightwood is only half of what it should be. "That will suffice," the older man said with a nod. "There are not many deficiencies. The additional woodbud flowers compensate for the shortage. In return for this tribute, we will grant medicine pills to alleviate your slave markings. When we return next time, the more woodbud flowers you provide, the better." With a flick of his sleeve, 4 azure jade bottles flew out, one to each demon. The 4 demons received the bottles and expressed their gratitude repeatedly. After the 3 Tian Peng beings stored away the tribute, they departed from the small beast's cave residence without delay. The 4 demons respectfully escorted them to the entrance. Once they saw the 3 transform into birds and fly away, they returned inside with visible relief and resumed their discussion. None of them noticed the small golden beetle crouched silently in the corner of the room, motionless as if lifeless. Meanwhile, Han Li remained concealed as he followed the 3 large birds, his gaze constantly shifting. He had observed everything that had taken place within the cave, including the collection of tribute. He was certain that the 3 were returning to a gathering point of the Tian Peng race. His current objective was to follow them and find a safe route back to the heavenly origin continent. After all, within such a vast sea, unknown dangers could be concealed anywhere. Han Li had no intention of accidentally entering the domain of a powerful existence. Moreover, members of the Flying Spirit tribe bore close resemblance to humans. If he could locate a place where the Tian Peng race gathered, he might be able to conceal his identity, blend in, and exchange information, materials, and medicinal resources. It was also possible that this foreign race possessed many rare treasures, such as the gold marrow crystal insects. After all, the Flying Spirit tribe differed from humans. Items that were priceless to humans might be ordinary to them, and vice versa. With these thoughts in mind, Han Li grew slightly eager and continued to trail the 3 Tian Peng beings. Given his cultivation, the 3 could not escape the range of his spiritual sense, allowing him to monitor them at all times. Thus, 3 birds and a single hidden cultivator swiftly crossed the edge of a peninsula and continued over the ocean. After 2 months of travel, Han Li finally saw a dark line appear along the horizon. They had reached the shores of the Tian Yuan continent. At that moment, the 3 Tian Peng beings flew onto land. Near the coastline lay uneven hills scattered across the terrain. Han Li did not dare slow down and risk losing them. He increased his speed, closing half the distance between them. However, a sudden change occurred ahead. Before the 3 Tian Peng beings stood a massive 2-headed bird accompanied by 7 other winged foreign beings. The moment they appeared, they surrounded the 3 Tian Peng beings with clear hostile intent. Han Li felt a surge of alarm but did not immediately stop. He continued forward until he was within half a kilometer before halting. The enormous 2-headed bird was a fearsome sight. It stood 30 meters tall. One head resembled a worm, while the other took the form of a tiger. Yet its body was covered in brilliant rainbow feathers. As for the 8 winged beings, they appeared equally formidable. Their wings were even larger than those of the Tian Peng beings, and their scarlet feathers seemed to burn with fire. In an instant, the 3 Tian Peng beings reverted to their human forms, their expressions turning solemn. The older Tian Peng man shouted sternly at a large man among the encircling group, "Tian Ming, what is the meaning of this? This territory belongs to the Tian Peng race. Why has your Qi-Rong race come here to block our path? Do you not fear the punishment of the 10 laws? The large man wore a red robe, his head bald and his build robust. He let out a chuckle. Ha ha, what is there to fear from the 10 laws? Hand over the items you carry obediently. If you swear allegiance to our Qi-Rong race, we may consider sparing your lives. The older man's expression shifted briefly, then returned to calm. What items are you referring to? The bald man replied coldly, Brother Feng Xiao, there is no need to conceal it. I am referring to the woodbud flowers. Feng Xiao denied it directly. How could we be carrying such rare items? Tianming, have you lost your reason? The bald man laughed loudly. It makes no difference whether you admit it. We will search you regardless. Ah, I nearly forgot to mention your sacred lord, who bore the true blood of Tian Peng, has already been slain after being surrounded by 3 Zheng beasts that emerged from the depths. The Flying Spirit tribe has removed the Tian Peng race as a branch. The 3 were visibly shaken upon hearing this. The younger Tian Peng man said in disbelief absurd. Even if he could not defeat them, the sacred Tian Peng lord could have escaped. How could 3 Zheng beasts stop him? The bald man flapped his flaming wings and said with a malicious tone, Hey, if they were merely Zheng beasts. Perhaps not. But if he had already been injured and his wings crippled, escape would not have been possible. Feng Xiao remained composed and replied coldly, Do you expect us to believe such claims so easily? Enough of this. Even if Lord Tianhua has perished, do not assume we will hand over our belongings. Light shimmered around his 2 companions as they prepared for battle. Seeing this, the bald man snorted, a sinister gleam flashing in his eyes. He was a mid-stage deity transformation cultivator, while his companions were at the early stage. With the addition of the enormous 2-headed bird, their combined strength far exceeded that of the 3 Tian Peng beings. However, if the Tian Peng beings focused solely on escape, he was not confident they could be restrained. After all, the Qi-Rong race was not known for speed. Against opponents of similar cultivation, their targets often escaped. However, since he had prepared this ambush, he had already devised a plan. A cold smile flickered across his face as he raised his hand. The other Qi-Rong beings simultaneously produced short blue cylinders and aimed them outward. With several popping sounds, spheres of blue flame shot forth. Not good. Devil-trapping cylinders. Move quickly. Feng Xiao shouted as he immediately spread his wings. Silver light burst from his body. His 2 companions followed at once, thunder rumbling around them. However, they were already too late. The surrounding blue flames suddenly expanded, transforming into large nets of blue light. In the blink of an eye, the nets merged, sealing off a kilometer-wide area into a massive cage. By the time the cage formed, the 3 streaks of lightning had failed to escape. As the lightning faded, the 3 Tian Peng beings stood with pale expressions. Seeing that his trap had succeeded, the bald man said with satisfaction, Although it is only a low-grade devil-trapping net, it is sufficient to contain you. Feng Xiao, do you truly believe you can break free while we attack from all sides? It would be wiser to surrender. If you refuse, do not blame me for what follows. Join forces and break through the net at once. Feng Xiao commanded calmly. He formed a hand seal and raised his hands. 2 thick bolts of lightning shot forward, striking the massive blue net directly. His companions opened their mouths and released additional bolts of lightning, reinforcing the attack. Explosions rang out as silver lightning intertwined with the blue net, causing it to tremble violently. Seeing this, the bald man's expression darkened with anger. Attack. Do not hold back. His body blurred as he transformed into a 10-meter-long scarlet bird, flames engulfing him as he dove toward the 3 Tian Peng beings. The other Qi-Rong beings underwent similar transformations, turning into flaming birds as they launched their assault. As a result, the 3 Tian Peng beings could no longer focus on breaking the devil-trapping net. They transformed into large silver birds, unleashing lightning as they confronted their attackers. For a time, flames surged and lightning flashed wildly. The surrounding air filled with intense heat and thick smoke. Only the massive two-headed bird remained motionless. Hanley let out a quiet sigh, uncertain whether to feel amused or concerned. At that moment, the devil-trapping net had also enclosed him within its range. Hanley felt a deep sense of frustration. Under normal conditions, he could have relied on his abilities to escape the net instantly. However, while remaining concealed, he dared not act rashly. The moment he revealed his aura, his presence would be exposed. Because of that brief hesitation, he was caught within the restriction. His eyelid twitched slightly, and he could only remain where he was. At the same time, his thoughts turned to the information he had just gathered. The Chai Rong race appeared to be one of the 72 branches of the Flying Spirit tribe. It was unclear how they had learned that the 3 Tian Peng beings possessed woodbud flowers, but they had set an ambush along their return route. They dared to act so boldly because the Tian Peng race had lost its lord and was left in a weakened state. If that was the case, then his original plan would likely fail. Would he have no choice but to abandon the Tian Peng race and search for another branch of the Flying Spirit tribe? That was not acceptable. Among all the branches, the Tian Peng race differed little from humans, aside from their wings. He had no certainty that other branches would share such similarities. For instance, the Chai Rong race had a far more fiendish appearance, making infiltration extremely difficult. While these thoughts passed through his mind, he continued observing the battle unfolding ahead. Thunder roared continuously as countless silver bolts of lightning surged through a sea of raging flames. The 3 silver birds seemed to have merged with lightning itself. They did not rely on their beaks or talons, maintaining a composed and dignified posture. Yet surrounded by such overwhelming fire, they were clearly at a disadvantage. The flame birds were entirely enveloped in fire. Whenever silver lightning struck them, flames would flare and their wounds would heal instantly, as if they possessed bodies that could not be destroyed. Meanwhile, although lightning still flashed around the silver birds, their radiance gradually dimmed. As the battle continued, a scarlet pearl had appeared above them at some unknown moment. It emitted a red mist that covered an area of about 100 meters. Within the battlefield, a firebird several times larger than the others let out a strange laugh. "Feng Xiao, although your cultivation is comparable to mine with my fire dragon pearl, you are no match for me." A cold snort followed. One of the silver birds suddenly swung its talons, sending 5 white streaks cutting through the air toward the pearl. A dull boom sounded. The fire dragon pearl glowed with red light and easily deflected the attack. "Here, brother Feng Xiao, do not place your hopes on chance. This fire dragon pearl carries restrictions set by our elders. A single high-grade flying spirit master cannot damage it." The large bird said with a wild laugh as it flapped its wings, releasing waves of flame. At the next moment, the 3 silver birds attempted to escape beyond the pearl's range. However, the pearl followed closely, clinging to them like a parasite. Distracted by this, the silver birds suffered even more injuries, and the lightning surrounding them weakened further. Seeing this, the firebirds intensified their assault. The 3 silver birds could only struggle to resist the advancing sea of flames. At this point, the bald man let out a cold sneer and gave a sharp cry. The massive 2-headed bird finally moved. It spread its wings, and both of its heads released low, eerie cries. Its body blurred and transformed into a streak of rainbow-colored mist, directly enveloping the 3 silver birds within the flames. The silver birds immediately panicked. One of them shouted urgently, "Use lightning movement to evade. We cannot face the Chi-Ho bird directly." As soon as the words were spoken, the 3 silver birds transformed into arcs of lightning and shot out from the sea of flames. Even so, they were struck several times during their escape. But the moment they exited the flames, they vanished without a trace. The rainbow mist swept past, then faded, revealing the 2-headed bird once more. Its 2 heads scanned the surroundings repeatedly. The fire dragon pearl hovered in place, rotating as if it had lost track of its targets. The firebirds were visibly startled. The largest among them withdrew his wings and reverted to human form within the swirling flames. He was the bald man, Tian Peng. Looking in the direction where the silver lightning had disappeared, he sneered. Do you think you can hide with lightning movement? Besides the fire dragon pearl, I have also brought spirit-sensitive wasps. I have already fed them a crystal core from your race. No matter how refined your lightning escape is, you will not evade them. As he spoke, he spat out a red gourd. The gourd spun in the air, its mouth opening as several yellow wasps flew out. Each was several inches long and glowed faintly. The bald man uttered a strange sound and pointed in the direction of the silver bird's escape. The wasps buzzed and immediately flew off. He laughed loudly and waved his arm. The other Qirong firebirds spread their wings and followed closely behind the wasps. The massive two-headed bird also slowly followed. At that moment, the bald man's smile suddenly stiffened. The wasps began circling in a nearby area, flying repeatedly in the same pattern. Had they found a Tian Peng being? The Qirong beings were confused. However, the bald man reacted decisively and shouted, "Attack!" Before the firebirds could advance, a man's voice sighed from the area where the wasps circled. A burst of grey light shone, and a wave of spiritual power swept through the space, engulfing the wasps and causing them to vanish. Startled, the firebirds immediately opened their mouths and unleashed pillars of flame. Grey light flashed again. The flames dissolved upon contact and disappeared without resistance. At that moment, fear appeared on the faces of the firebirds. They halted their advance and stared in shock as a man slowly emerged from the grey light. He wore azure robes and had an unremarkable face. A pair of white wings extended from his back. Although he appeared to be a member of the Flying Spirit tribe, he was clearly not one of the three Tian Peng beings from before. "Who are you?" The bald man shouted sternly, though unease was evident as his aura surged outward. "Who am I? Can you not tell?" Han Lai replied calmly with a faint smile. Although his expression remained composed, he was cursing inwardly. The Qirong beings exchanged glances. The wasps had led them directly to this man. How could he not be a Tian Peng being? Han Li himself sensed that this likely had something to do with the Tian Peng feather he had refined using his thunderstorm wings. Fortunately, at the moment he revealed himself, he had already altered the form and color of his wings, making them identical to those of a Tian Peng being. The disguise was flawless. "Ah, Tian Peng," the bald man said, his gaze fixed on Han Li's white wings, his expression filled with hostility. Han Li merely smiled without answering. "Regardless of how you arrived here, since you have encountered us, there is only one outcome: death. Kill him," the bald man ordered. The surrounding firebirds immediately surged forward. With a single motion of their wings, they released over a dozen claw-like streaks, mixed with blazing flames toward Han Li. At the same time, the fire dragon pearl flashed and appeared above Han Li, forming a red barrier around him. Han Li's expression did not change. He casually waved his hand and grey mist surged outward. When the claw streaks and flames entered the mist, they slowed, then gradually dissolved into nothing. At the same time, thunder resounded from his wings. His figure blurred and vanished in a flash of golden lightning. In the next instant, he appeared above the pearl and reached out, grasping it. The fire dragon pearl trembled violently. A red barrier appeared, and a 10-meter-long scarlet python manifested, biting fiercely at Han Li's arm. A loud impact rang out. Golden light flickered across his arm, revealing fine golden scales. No matter how fiercely the python bit down, it could not penetrate his skin. Han Li tightened his grip. A faint golden phantom appeared behind him, and a crisp cracking sound followed. The surface of the fire dragon pearl fractured, and under his immense strength, the entire pearl shattered. With a simple motion of his hands, the fragments turned to dust and scattered in the wind. In an instant, Han Li had neutralized all attacks and destroyed the fire dragon pearl through sheer force. The Qirong beings were left completely stunned. "You actually destroyed a treasure of our race," the bald man exclaimed in shock. But as he realized the consequences, his expression twisted with rage. With a sharp cry, his body blurred as he transformed back into a massive bird and charged toward Han Li. At the same time, the huge two-headed bird became a streak of mist, moving to envelop him.